Have you ever taken a photo and thought to yourself, why doesn't this look as good as I imagined? You had the right gear, you chose the right settings, everything should have worked. But the photo still doesn't feel right. Trust me, you're not alone. This happens to almost everyone when they start out. Turns out, the only thing that usually needs fixing is your composition. And once you understand how to approach it, you'll start creating beautiful photos far more consistently. I am Shantanu, and today we are breaking down something that literally makes or breaks your photo: composition. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what composition is, why it often feels so confusing, and how to approach it in a simple and practical way so you can create clean, intentional, and beautiful wildlife photos every time you lift your camera. Let's begin. Photography is all about telling a story, and composition is what helps you tell that story clearly. At the simplest level, composition is just how you arrange the things inside your frame to tell that story better. It's really about what you choose to include from the scene and what you choose to leave out. Your camera lets you take a picture. Composition lets you decide what picture you want to take. And most of the time, that decision matters much more. Here is an easy way to think about it. The camera is the tech and the composition is the art. To take a good photo, you need both. Composition is also the biggest differentiator in wildlife photography. Just imagine, if all photographers had the same technical skills, what do you think would separate a good one from a bad one? Almost always, it's the composition. Now, a good composition effortlessly draws the viewer's eye to your subject. It eliminates confusion and ensures that the viewer does not have to work hard to understand your story. It makes the subject easy to spot and makes sure that the other elements in the frame complement the subject and do not compete with it. And most importantly, a good composition makes the viewer feel something. For example, if your subject is buried in cluttered background, the viewer's eyes don't know where to go. That's a classic sign of weak composition. But in a well-composed image, the viewer knows immediately what the subject is and what's happening in the image. Take this one for example. You instantly know the zebras are the subject and they are walking towards the left side of the frame. Now, understanding what composition means is the easy part. Actually applying it in the field, in real time, can feel overwhelming. In my opinion, there are three key reasons why composition feels so difficult when you're starting out. The first one is simply that composition is subjective. See, camera settings are objective. You change a number and the result changes in a very predictable way. Composition is not like that. Two people can look at the exact same scene and have completely different ideas of what the best composition is. See, that ambiguity alone makes it tricky. It definitely did for me, at least when I was starting out. I often found myself very unsure of what the ideal composition should be. The second reason why beginners struggle is the lack of time in the field. See, in wildlife photography, things happen really fast. You don't get 10 minutes to think about your framing. Sometimes you barely get 5 seconds. And in that moment, trying to apply multiple composition rules is nearly impossible. The third problem is how composition is generally taught. When I was new to this and started researching about composition techniques online, I was bombarded with concepts like the rule of thirds, golden ratios, symmetry, negative space, leading lines, and honestly, it overwhelmed me. See, there's nothing wrong with these concepts. They're useful. But when you're new, all of this feels like a huge checklist that you're somehow expected to remember in real time. And that simply doesn't work. Now, to tackle all these three problems, we need an approach which is simple, easy to apply, and highly effective. Let's talk about it. Most well-composed images have one thing in common. They're not just about the subject. They include other elements in the frame that support the subject and the story. So that's exactly what we should focus on. Our goal should be to add elements to our frame that enrich the subject and the story. Now, I like to call this the subject plus what else approach. And it's very simple. Whenever you're about to take a photo, think about what else other than the subject can you add to the frame. Ask yourself two questions. First, what is my subject? What is this photo actually about? The answer to this question is really simple because more often than not, you know what your subject is. Second, what else can I add in the frame that complements my subject? What elements add value to the story? And the what else doesn't necessarily have to be another animal or an object. It can be the atmosphere, the habitat, the foreground, a visual effect, or even just how the light falls on or around your subject. Basically, anything that elevates your story. Let me give you two quick examples to show you what I mean. See, in this photo, the subject is obviously the lion walking across the grasslands. But what really elevates the frame is the what else, the dramatic storm clouds building in the sky. That atmosphere adds scale, tension, and mood. The moment you include that sky, the image becomes more than just a lion walking. It becomes a story about a lion moving through a vast, unpredictable landscape. In this one, the subject is the tiger, but the what else is the entire environment around the tiger, the river, the reflections, the massive forest in the background. The habitat gives a sense of scale and shows the tiger in its world, not just in isolation. Without the environment, though, this would have been a simple tiger shot. With the environment, the image feels richer, more intentional, and much more connected to the place. This is not a rigid rule, it's only a starting point. It breaks that hesitation you feel when you point your camera at a subject and think, what do I do now? It forces you to think beyond just the subject, and almost all good compositions begin when you do that. Trust me, this will make things so much easier. It cuts through a lot of confusion and subjectivity because now suddenly you have a clear goal. You're no longer guessing how to compose the scene, you're making a simple, intentional choice. Now that you understand the subject plus what else mindset, here are a few practical tips that will help you in applying it in the field. They will also help you avoid the common mistakes that can destroy a good composition. Tip 1. Stop only shooting portraits. As beginners, we often default to taking close-up portraits. It feels like the safest shot. You see the animal, you zoom in, and you try to fill the frame. But tight portraits leave no room for anything else. You miss out on the habitat, the light, the foreground, and the story. So consciously step back and include more of the scene. You'll be surprised how quickly your compositions improve once you move beyond portraits. The sooner you break out of the portrait trap, the faster your eye for composition will grow. Tip 2. Include the habitat. See, wildlife photography is not just about the animal, it's also about its world. And it's the easiest addition you can make to your frame. The habitat instantly adds depth, context, and mood to your frame. So let nature be a part of your story. Use the environment to support your subject rather than isolating it every single time. Tip 3. Don't ignore the foreground. One of the easiest ways to improve your composition is using the foreground. A simple branch, a bit of grass, a rock, or even some soft blur at the bottom of your frame can add depth and instantly make the image feel more immersive. Remember, foreground elements guide the viewer's eye naturally and create layers that add depth to your frame. They're also an easy way to add a what else without overthinking. Number 4. Experiment with shooting angles. See, don't just shoot from that one comfortable position. On safaris, we usually stand inside the vehicle and end up shooting downward at the animal. This angle makes the animal look smaller and weakens its presence. Instead, try to get lower. Shoot closer to the animal's eye level. See, eye level shots feel far more intimate and engaging. The subject instantly carries more weight in the frame. And don't be afraid to try unusual angles, either very low or slightly higher. Remember, even a small change in perspective can completely transform your composition. Number 5. Leave space around your subject. Give your subject some breathing room in the frame. Avoid placing it too close to the edges. And always leave space in the direction of its gaze or movement. See, when a subject sits right on the edge, the image feels tense, almost like the animal is about to run into the border of the frame, and that breaks the natural flow of the photo. But when there's space around the subject, especially in the direction it's looking or moving, the frame feels calmer and much more intentional. Good spacing lets your composition breathe and makes the viewer feel much more at ease with the image. Tip 6. Don't center your subject. See, centering your subject is one of the biggest composition killers in wildlife photography. When the subject sits in the middle of the frame, the viewer sees it immediately. And that's where their attention stops. Nothing else in the frame gets noticed, and the image feels flat, predictable, and a bit boring. But when you place the subject slightly off center, left, right, higher, or lower, the frame has a bit of imbalance. As a result, our brain immediately tries to resolve that imbalance. And in doing so, the viewer naturally looks around the frame instead of getting stuck to one spot. That simple shift makes the image feel much more dynamic and engaging. Number 7. Simplify the frame. See, composition isn't just about what you include, it's also about what you choose to leave out. Before you take the shot, quickly scan for distractions, bright patches, messy branches, or anything that pulls attention away from your subject. If something competes with your subject, try changing your angle or try reframing slightly. Always remember, less is more. Focus on the important elements and eliminate anything that can distract the viewer. A clean, simple frame lets your subject and your story stand out much more strongly. Before we end this, I want you to remember something. Composition is an art and it's deeply personal. There will always be subjectivity. There will never be one perfect way to compose a photo. Trust me, as you shoot more, you'll naturally begin to develop your own style. So, everything we spoke about today, the mindset, the tips, think of them as starting points and not a rule book. As you shoot more, you'll naturally begin to develop your own style, a way of seeing the world that reflects your vision. So, take risks, try new approaches, experiment with different framings, bring your point of view to your photos. Because ultimately, the best compositions come from photographers who aren't afraid to explore and they refine their own style. Use what you learned today to get moving in the right direction and then just let your creativity take over. Alright, that's it. If you found this video helpful, let me know in the comments. And if you want more wildlife photography breakdowns like this one, consider subscribing to the channel. If you want to check out some of my photography work, this is my Instagram handle. I'll see you in the next one.